All right, top of the hour. Welcome everybody to our third edition of our Summer Bootcamp for 2020. Today's topic is going to be NFPA 1452, Community Risk Reduction for Residential Occupancies. So we'll jump into that here in just a minute, but to get things warmed up, let's do some poll questions and let's go to the next slide too. So what we're doing on these summer boot camps is we're making them a little bit shorter, respect your time a little bit, trying to get through as much as we can, 30, 35 minutes total, and really focused on the topic at hand, like we always do, but then we generally go for about an hour, and we're trying to see if a shorter format is better for everybody. So please send me your feedback if you've attended these over the past couple weeks. And with that, do a couple shout outs here. I see my buddy Todd Russell from Alaska is online, and Sean Sims, power user out in Pennsylvania. So awesome, great to see you guys. And we've got a good participation today. So let's do some polls. You guys know I like these polls to kind of get us engaged right out of the gate. So first of all, what type of agency do you work for? Our traditional question. Career volunteer combo or federal or DoD? Okay, gonna close the poll in 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see what we got today. Ooh, another good mix. I think that's almost exactly like last week. I think we had 50% combo. Excellent. I'm glad to have you guys with us. Good representation across the different types of departments. And then just so I know where to concentrate on a couple slides later in the deck, how many of you are, did I just close the poll? Fast fingers. Okay, well, and it won't let me start it again. So let's put it this way. Anybody participating, if you are not an ER customer, just shoot off a question saying, hey, I'm not an ER customer. Otherwise, I will assume everybody is an ER customer. I fast clicked that thing and it closed it, but I won't do it this time. Here's one, new question. Does your agency have a residential community risk reduction program? So you have a full-on community risk reduction program that encompasses, many or most hazards. You don't have one at all, or you do have a partial one where you focus on smoke alarm or carbon monoxide alarm installations and checks, or fall prevention. So what are you guys doing right now? Excellent. Closing in 3, 2, and 1. And I expected this. So yes, very common. My department was the same way. Okay, fingers going too fast here. Okay, my department was the same way, and so we had, and ours escalated over the years where we got into fall prevention, home safety checks. So we got very comprehensive once I had retired from the organization, and as we'll see today, it's a pretty important program. So let's see, most of you have a partial one, some of you have nothing. So I think today you're gonna have a guide here to take with you, essentially, by going to the NFPA website to help you enhance and build a community risk reduction program for residential occupancies. Okay, one more question. So thinking about those of you everybody almost is partial, and if you don't have one, what's the biggest barrier? What's your biggest challenge? Is it competing priorities, funding, training of your personnel, overall organizational commitment, or just time? And again, it's probably more than one of those, but what's the biggest obstacle? What's your biggest challenge right now in being able to execute a community risk reduction program for residences? Give you a little bit of time to think it over. I imagine you could check more than one, but think, which is the biggest barrier? Okay, almost done. Sean, okay, he also had unsure how to best start, lots of ideas, but not sure what will work best for our community. So hopefully we'll have a little conversation about that today. Okay, gonna close the poll here. And let's take a look. Rather evenly spread out. So this one's great. No one said training of personnel. So what I'm inferring from that is that you could get a commitment and the troops are, able and willing to learn how to do a good program and get out there and help support that, knowing that a community risk reduction division or a prevention division can't do it alone. You're going to have to enlist the help of the operations, the suppression guys. Okay, so evenly spread out from all of these. Okay, So I'm going to try and give you some information to help make a case to the decision makers on the value of such a program. So that's me. You guys know me that have participated before. Like I said earlier, my department of the Green Valley Fire District retired back in 2013. Been serving with emergency reporting since 2011, so had a part-time gig for a couple of years before I retired. Became full-time, traveled the world teaching our system, and then was promoted to business development analyst in July of 2018, where I currently serve as a subject matter expert for our sales and biz dev team, as well as a key account manager. All right, so since I think everybody is an ER customer, I'm gonna go past these slides. You know what a wonderful product we have, the good service that we provide, and how we help you and your agency manage your data so you can give back more to the community and hopefully secure more funding for the things that you need to do a great job. So again, this slide, we're about to update this, and we're well over 71, probably pushing 7,200 departments in our system. And so today's objective, let's get right to it. How can I develop or enhance a community risk reduction program for residential occupancies so that I can improve the safety of my community? And also you can read into this too, by improving the safety of your community where they live, okay, your residences, your residents in their residences. You'll also have the ancillary effect of improving the safety of your crews. For example, you do home safety inspections, get out there and do community risk reduction, and you notice you have hoarder residences. Well, even if they don't clean up their home, at least you can flag it in your CAD in our system that this is a hoarder residence and use extra caution, fire load, egress, all of that. And so by improving the safety of your community, you're also improving the safety of your crews. And programs like these, as we'll see in the next couple slides, enhance your standing in the community. So those of you that are suppression guys, you probably didn't get into this job to go out there and do smoke alarms, to take care of fall prevention concerns in residences. But at the end of the day, that is part of our mission, right? We're a fire and life safety organization. In fact, many progressive departments now, they're changing their names to fire and medical services, okay? And so a lot of what we're doing is not necessarily the Chicago fire and backdraft and all that, though we all love that. I mean, that kind of got us into it, the excitement of it all. But we know that this is also a key part, and understanding that this is such a key part of what we do because it allows us to interact on a non-emergent basis with our customers and build those relationships, which in turn build support when it comes time for funding, tax increases, perhaps, things like that. And so this document, NFPA 1452, is the guide for training fire service personnel to conduct community risk reduction for residential occupancies. And so this document, I want you to check it out online. We'll go to it here in a little bit. But if you either have a partial community risk reduction program for your residences and you want to enhance it, this is your guide. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You just need to take a look at this and see how you're going to use it to build your program. I'm going to pull a few sections out that as I was reading through it and studying it and thinking about it, right there at the first chapter, okay, the first section, all right, the advantages here of having an effective residential fire and life safety program. You're meeting the community on a one-to-one basis, okay, and you're able to take your time with them. Usually when they're having a bad day and they call 911, you don't have the time to get to know them. You don't have to get the time to understand them. You just got to take care of them. All right, you get to engage it with them. Again, following up with number one there, you get to engage with them in a non-emergent setting. And I like number 5 because I think you're upwardly mobile, like that catchphrase for those firefighters that have certain skills that are going to lead to them becoming more formal leaders in the organization, even though they may be informal right now, not rank-based, but it enhances their professional development if they're engaged in these activities. Anybody moving up in an organization, you're going to be spending more time communicating what your fire department is, what it does, what its mission is, and what its needs are with people in the community. So this is a skill builder, and yeah, it's some of those soft skills, but those soft skills are critical to the success of anyone who wants to move into an officer rank within the organization or deal with the public on not just an emergent basis. And then in the blue there, you're improving the fire service relationship with the community. And we know the challenges that we're going through right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if most, if not all of you, have put your community risk reduction programs on hiatus due to COVID. You're not going into people's residences for these non-essential responses, although maybe you might still be doing that. I don't know, but I think many departments are probably put it on a hiatus for now, again, to reduce that risk of exposure, not only to our personnel, but if your personnel have it, to expose your residences, especially if you're serving the higher risk communities like seniors. So when this picks back up and we get back to some semblance of normalcy, that building of that relationship is going to pay dividends for you, not only in just great letters coming in thanking you for your, coming to the house and helping them with their smoke alarms or fall prevention, but also when it comes time for funding, if you've got a solid relationship in the community, the chances of you running into a lot of adversity when it comes time for, like, fire districts can raise taxes, or if you want to buy a new fire truck or add staffing, your chances of running into heavy resistance are going to be much slimmer if you've established that relationship. And so, yeah, is there a little ulterior motive in a community risk reduction program? You could look at it. Of course, the primary function is to keep the people safer, but that relationship building that you're doing also pays dividends for the organization down the road, especially during difficult times. Okay, so educational materials, right? So just these 8 things, and I'll let you take a look at them, and you probably are doing some of these, but look at the opportunity that you have to reduce risk in your community, both via education, and again, a community risk reduction isn't just going on site and checking smoke detector batteries, okay, replacing them, helping with fall prevention. It's also, how are you using your social media for this, right? Using technology to connect with your community, understanding how your community uses social media. Guaranteed that if you have a lot of seniors in your community, they may not be as engaged with technology as the younger generations. How are you addressing them? How are you helping keep them safe? But again, looking at this, these are some of the ways you can deliver different programs and materials to your community. All right, so training, chapter 5 covers, and again, I'm going just through the highlights here, everybody, and I want you to take a look at it. But remember, you can view these for free, and I'm going to go to that site here when we get done with the deck, but you can go there and review these documents for free. And again, if you have a membership with NFPA, you have access to those documents, so you can download them and work with them and so forth, print them out. But again, this 5.2.1, fire service personnel should be trained and knowledgeable in recognizing fire and life safety hazards. So do they have to be inspectors? No. Do they have some foundational knowledge that maybe your prevention division can provide them so they can go in and kind of be on the lookout? You bet, okay? And it needs to be relevant with current recommended practices. So remember, are you following other NFPA standards that pertain to what you're doing? And are you using 1452 as a foundational document? All right, and I like this last sentence, okay? And again, I'm thinking globally here. So fire service personnel should be trained to project an image an attitude that leaves a positive, lasting impression, because I guarantee you that you're going to be very easily technically competent in changing smoke detectors, installing batteries, doing the things that you do from a technical skill, but how did you communicate? How did they feel when you walked out of their house after you just replaced a bunch of smoke detector batteries? Did you go in and just put them in and say, oh, great, bud, fill out the form and there you go? Or did you engage them? It goes a long way, and I can speak to that from my time on the job, how big a deal it is. And again, certainly depending on the generation, but I worked with a lot of seniors, and the gratitude that they showed was just, rewarding on just a constant basis. You gotta be careful because it starts feeding your ego a little bit. So keeping all that in mind is something you wanna consider as you're enhancing your program. Okay, so this home fire safety survey is directly out of NFPA 1452. It's also on NFPA's website. So one of the things that you wanna do, and I also mentioned in the standard, is documenting what you're doing. You've got to document it. And why do you have to document it? Well, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. And yeah, it's more documentation, but it will pay dividends for you later on, because using a system like ours, you can document your community risk reduction program for residences. and run some really great reports when the chief has to report to the city council, the fire board, whomever, because of all the work that you're doing. And I'm going to show you some ways to set it up in the system here momentarily. And I'm looking forward to hearing any ideas that you guys have done too, because my way is one way, but you may have a better one. And so if you do, I want to hear about it. Okay, so remember, if you're making or enhancing a community risk reduction program for residential occupancies, this document's going to save you a lot of pain. It's going to save you a lot of frustration because it's going to serve as a guide. So yeah, it says for training fire service personnel, but it's really a guide to enhancing that whole program as well. So I really encourage you to check it out. All right, here we go. All right, close out the PowerPoint. And okay, so here's the standard, right? So NFPA on their site, and it's not a huge standard, all right? There's 10 chapters, but they're not long, and it's not so technical like it's written for, you know, fire safety system engineers like some of them are. It's meant for you guys. And so I can't encourage this one enough. And as you go through it, you'll see I really like, you know, planning the program. So even though it's training, it talks about how you're going to plan it, some of the considerations you need to keep in mind. So have you thought of most of these? If you're on this webinar, you probably have. But again, it's a good benchmark to follow as you go through and enhance your program. So I'm gonna put that in the link in the chat right now. You will have to, if you're on Safari, by the way, if you're a Mac guy like me and you're on Safari, for some reason it doesn't open up. So switch over to Firefox or Chrome and you'll be good to go. Again, Mac users. So check your chat and you got a link there to that standard. And then the other thing I want to point out to you in your GoToWebinar control panel is you've got 4 documents. We're going to talk about these in our system today because they're relevant to a community risk reduction program for residences. I put in 2 learning plans for you, 3 learning plans, excuse me. Training module and the events module, and then also a copy of that NFPA safety survey for you so you don't have to go digging for it. So check out those 4 handouts, feel free to download them, and hopefully they'll be useful to you. Okay, let's get into the system because I want to show you how to set some things up for a community risk reduction program for residences. All right, so let me show you what my idea is, and then you may come up with others. And I'm going to show you, present some of the reasons why here. So what I've done is I created 2 residences. I have a CRR for zone 1, and again, you can do it by zone, by station, but label it correctly. And you can do a plan B and actually have a unique occupancy for every residence, but you got to go in and add it every single time. Okay, and then you'll have a whole list of residences in your system. Now, some organizations may want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. If you want to still have the ability to run great reports against your home safety inspections and your building your community risk reduction program, okay, and do it in a pretty streamlined manner, this is one alternative I'd like to show you. So what I did was I created a category and subcategory. So let me show you that real quick. So I created a residential, and then using the NFRs, I just picked 4 for right now. All right, these are my subcategories. And then I created the name. CRR Zone 1 Geography, residential placeholder for CRR program, placeholder only in the street name because it is not a single occupancy that we're dealing with here. I did my occupancy type. I assigned it to a station and a zone. Those are important because of the reports that you can extract, and then you're good to go. Okay, and you can do that for every geographical area. And you might be asking, well, why do I want to do that? Well, here's why. It makes life easier for the users that are going out there to do these safety checks if you're going to use a form. So if I'm at station 1 or I'm going into zone 1, I know to pick this occupancy, and it's laid out pretty easy for me. All right, with a little training, they're going to get this. All right, so if I'm at station 2 or district 2, I'm going to use this one. all right? And I do this because I want to be able to run reports against my geographical areas. So I just did 2, but you would have 1 for each of your geographical areas, all right? And then now the other thing that you need to consider is in admin, all right? So we've built our categories and subcategories. We've added a couple placeholder residences. Then in admin, and you want to do this because you want to take advantage of the daily log. I created a daily log activity code called inspection CRR residential, and then I titled it. Okay, so that's step 2. And we go back to occupancy. We go into settings. Okay, there's a few places we need to visit here. The first place, inspection types. All right, you need to create an inspection type called CRR, Residential Home Safety Survey, and then tie it to a daybook activity code. And you guys know why? Because it will automatically populate the completed home safety survey in the logbook once the person who does it completes it. Okay, and so this is this part of your community risk reduction program, all right, and I'll show you one other part of our system that we're going to do this in, but this is again for the documentation so you can provide statistics data as to what your program's doing, all right? We're not done yet. This is the inspection type. We've got a few more places to visit in the occupancy module settings. We need to go into inspection results, and I created 2. CRR residential follow-up required, CRR residential no follow-up needed. All right, you may have other endpoints that you're going to look at. Those are the 2 that I just came up with. Again, this is the overall result of the safety survey for that residence. So you're going to need to do follow-up because we got to come back and do some fall prevention installs or no slip carpets, rugs, and things like that, or were they good to go? Okay, next step. We've got inspection, observation values. So I created 3, data only. The answer is no, the answer is yes. Now you may have different ones, but I'm following the NFPA safety survey. All right, once we've built all of that, then the next step is to create the inspection form. And so I did that. I created a CRR residential. Okay, what it looks like, I did not fill the whole form out, but I filled enough out that you can get started. Okay, so what does that look like when we actually go and do it? So let's do that. All right, now remember, we're going out. Crews are going to go out and do the safety survey. They're going to go into that occupancy. I'm going to station 1. We're going to go to the inspections tab. We're going to start a new inspection. I'm logged in as a support tech, so it didn't default to me. Inspection type, form. Okay, contacts won't happen here. Then we get to the form. So now this is all, try our new beta, it's coming out. In fact, let's just do it. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. So we should be here anyway. All right, so the questions. Let's go into that. We're going to go next. We're going to go into the resident information. So again, I'm on my tablet. Got 3 questions. I'm going to go in here, data only, remarks, enter phone number, and again, I would have the sequence correct. You know, save. Messed up my sequence. Okay, that's all right. Names. So one of the things here that you're doing is putting in the addresses in the form, not having a separate occupancy, though you could. This is one alternative I wanted to show you. Okay, then we go into general, and we're gonna go here, and we could maybe take a picture even if you wanted to, but we'll change this to they're good to go, yes, save. Second floor, no, Save. Oops, and we're going to go yes here. Save. Okay, so again, you would go through that entire form. We're going to go next. We're going to complete it. Okay, no billable here. We're going to grab signature of me, the resident. Okay. All right. So here we are. We got it done. Maybe we're going to go in and schedule a follow-up inspection. Maybe we won't. It's going to be up to you. Okay. Then we're going to go next. Uh-oh. We don't like the uh-oh here. Did I do something wrong? Probably. Oh, of course I did. So no follow-up needed. Now I can complete it. There we go. All right. And so we're going to send it to Mrs. Smith. Now, you know, I always teach on the inspections. When you do an inspection, okay, when you do an inspection, you just want them to fix the things that were violations, and you'll just show them that. Now, my recommendation on this is you want to show them all the good things they did too. So you might want to print the whole thing out, and they'll get something like this. You see the signatures and good to go. Now, obviously, it'll be multiple pages, and you can ask them, do we want to meet? Do you want it email? Would you like me to print it out? And yeah, there'll be a handful of pages for sure, but at least you're in part of the 1452 standard talks about leaving a copy of your documentation with the resident as well. Of course, we can send it via email, and we're going to authorize it. It's so cool that we don't have to put in our passwords with the new system. So keep entering passwords, and we are done. All right, and then now, yeah, it's going to be. I go to 10, 100, 1,000 different residences in Zone 1. Are they all going to be stacked up here in this placeholder residence? Yeah, but that's okay. All right, because you can do this, and I love this. Right, so watch this. So. And you could even have, as I'm thinking about it here, you could even have a unique observation value called address. Because why? Because you might want to see, okay, where do we visit? Maybe we want to plot it on a map, all right? That is the difference between having a separate occupancy in the occupancy module for every single residence, because it'll plot on the map. But you can also take some data out into Google Earth if you wanted to as well. So here, if I want to see my observation values, okay. Let's see, I want the per occupancy. Let's do this one, 1785, even though it has the billable amount. So we're going to go with month, and all I care about is my residential, and I want maybe just data only. And I may, now as I think about it, having an address, CRR-address, I could pick that, and then it will show me all the residences I visited, because here's the address. Now, this is showing all of the data because it was data only, and I said data only for this observation, but if I created a new observation value, which makes sense to me, would be address, and I would see the list of all my addresses. This is just one report that may be able to do that. All right. And then another one, say they weren't safe for whatever reason, right? This will give you a list. Now, there's even probably a better one because this has billable amounts, but again, it's a detailed report and I like these. But if I run and I see that on this question, most of our multi-story residential structures don't have a smoke alarm on every level, hey, now I can focus my public education efforts on an area that we know there's a concern. So the data going in will help you make better decisions with the limited resources you have on the back end. Okay, let's see if I can get a better report that's not as crazy detailed. I don't want to count, I want description, and actually this one would work. Per occupancy for personnel. Let's just try this one. I like ones with lots of pickers. Okay, but this one has the key picker here, right? So take a look at this one, a little less complicated. All right, take this out into Excel, and if I have a count of, there's a lot of no's, but there's an overwhelming amount of these that are no's, we've got an opportunity to keep our community safer based on data. So we're being driven by the data, not the data driving us. All right, we're making the decisions based on the data. All right, let's take a look at some questions. We are at the bottom of the hour. This turned out pretty good, but I got one more thing I want to show you, but I want to answer questions first. Jason, great question. If you place the address in the info area only, can you search that data later? Yeah, but you got to run a report to do that. Okay, Jason, you've got to run one of these reports to do it. Now, if you decided that you wanted to do, and some of you may have done this, create an occupancy for every residence that you go to, then it's a different way of searching for it. I know firefighters, I know I've been one, I can tell you, the easier I can make it, the more successful the program is, even if on the back end, I've got to do a little extra searching for the geolocation of those residences. Again, this is just one way. I imagine you might have a different way or a better way, and please let me know if you do. As I've thought through this over the years, it's like this seems to work pretty well when it comes to residences, because I have heard during my travels, well, I don't want to put one in, for every residence, or I can import that from our assessor's office or GIS, and it's easy, so I will have one for each residence. So it's really your call how you wish to manage it. Okay, so that's how you can conduct a home safety survey using the occupancy module. The reason I like it here is because it lets you use a form and document everything and share that form very easily, whether you print it or email it to Mrs. Smith. They get it and they have it and they know what you've done in their organization, and it just, again, builds that rapport and follow up, and they walk away not only with a good feeling because they've had some great guys and gals come into the department or come into their house, but that now they are left with a piece of paper or a document in their inbox, email inbox, that shows them, what a great job they're doing to keep their home safe, or things that you did to help them keep their home safer. The other part of the system that you want to take advantage of for anything that you do with community risk that may not involve an inspection form or a survey per se is the events module. So definitely take advantage of what this module has to offer. It's a really, the things they did to update this module is fantastic. Okay, and so in your settings, you're going to be able to create a category of whatever you want: public education, community risk reduction, or I even did one for social media if you want to track those, and then you create your different types. Organize them nicely. It's not a bad idea to put some prefixes in front of them to keep them nice and organized, like I have here for fire drills. Okay, and then I did again for social media down here, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Maybe we're doing some campaigns and we want to document that in our events to show our chief, and then of course, couple that with the data that you can extract from those various platforms, you've got a pretty good story to tell. So those are the two modules that I think best support a community risk reduction program for residences, okay? And so here, when I say for residences, okay, maybe you're going to a homeowners association to do a presentation. You don't need to go to the occupancy module for that. Do it here in events. Okay. All right, so that's it. We did good today. We did cover what I wanted to cover in around 30 minutes. So does anyone have any questions or any thoughts on what you're doing? And again, today the topic was 1452, the NFPA standard for training fire service personnel to conduct community risk reduction for residential occupancies. We talked a little bit about some of the key elements of that document, where to access it on the NFPA website. So in your chat, you have a link for that. Also gave you some handouts, learning plans for our events module, and our training module. Oh, well, if I loaded up the training module, I should tell you about the training module, because I had that one on my outline too. I should just look at my outline. The other part is in the training. Anything that, and again, this is an organizational decision. So yeah, they went out and did that home safety survey, but anything you do to train them to become proficient in taking care of the community in that non-emergent manner, you're going to want them to do it here in the training module. So it's a little bit of that what's in it for me, right? I think that's always part of who we are as human beings, right? And so what's in it for me? What do I get out of it? Now, that sounds like a selfish tone, but it's not. What they get is not only the satisfaction of helping Mrs. Smith, which again usually is enough, but they may get some training hours on top of it. You know, will you give them training hours for any of the things that they're doing out in the community? You'll certainly give them training hours whenever they are learning the program that you're implementing, and you'll want to document it here and put it in, put it in your agency's correct category and use the correct training codes, of course. But I wanted to mention that and make sure that that is essentially kind of a third module here that supplements the whole community risk reduction program for residential occupancies, because you want to give the troops credit for the training that they're going to go through to support this endeavor. So between the occupancy module, the training module, and the events module, you've got some really good tools that will help you support your adherence to NFPA 1452. Right. All right. Any questions? So I like what Shauna mentioned earlier too, where to begin, right? Where to start. So the place to start is one, this resource, of course. Probably sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you, as I read through this, it's golden. I mean, it gives you a lot. And again, it's always, well, why are we doing this? The why, right? Here's the whys. You know, here's how we're adhering to a national standard that's been thought through. Okay, so jumping in. And then also take advantage of, you know, your peers, right? Other ER users. I know Sean's very active in our Pennsylvania Facebook group that they've created. So if you are in a state, we have about 7 of them. If you do a search on Facebook, we've got a bunch of them. But if you're in a state where there is not a Facebook users group, you might want to consider leading one. And we support it. You know, I'll post things in there. We can't manage it. It's not sponsored by emergency reporting, but the groups that we have, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Department of Defense, Oklahoma, did I say Arkansas? And some of them, especially the Pennsylvania one, is super active. People helping each other and sharing ideas. And then, you know, I'll try to post things that are coming up, you know, trainings like these, our virtual Thursdays and such. So, you know, if you are interested, just ping me at tom@emergencyreporting.com. If you want to take the lead and create a Facebook users group for emergency reporting users in your state, I'll be glad to kind of guide you through it, but it's pretty easy. All right. What other questions you guys have for me? Anything you can think of? I hope this gave you a good insight onto a residential program for your community, because I'm sure most of you have a really great prevention program, and those typically address your commercial occupancies. And so this can supplement that with a residential program as well. All right, well, hey, we're gonna catch you next week, right? So I'm gonna show you, we got one last episode of our summer boot camp. And that is going to be, we're going to have some guests the next week, because we're going to give you an update on the latest in our reports team and our business intelligence team. Kevin, who is the product owner, and I'll have to ask Brittany, but she's the product owner for our reports team. And so as we go here, let me just show you. I'll put this link in here for you all to register. And I imagine probably most of you that are here today are registered as well. So check your chat, but it's going to be, we're going to look into what we're doing in the business intelligence side of the house, reports and analytics. All right, that's all I've got today, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and we will catch you next week.